Welcome to the OC. I'm Phil, and this is my co-host Corey. And tonight we are going to talk about the moon landing hoax. Was it real?
I think we're focusing on conspiracy. We're not calling it a hoax. We're saying the conspiracy. So
right.
you're showing your beliefs right now, Phil.
I'm not saying anything. I'm not going to show my side of anything. So yeah, this is a big topic. Like, there's a lot to this topic. I mean, there's some really strong sides.
Not all of it is evidence-based. That's the problem. That's what kills me is when it's like the symbolism. And we'll when we talk later about where the symbolism shows up. There's just awful.
And yeah, there's a lot of things that are going on. I don't want this to be a history lesson though. This is, I mean, if you're listening,
because it didn't happen, right, Phil? That's what you're saying. You don't want this to be a history lesson because
I don't want you all to be misled down the path of the darkness. Or Stanley Kubrick or whatever his name was. Anyway, no, I want to kind of set the scene of what's going on in America. This is all falling into our Cold War sort of genre that we've come down a dark path, Corey.
Oh yeah, because I guess we talked about, because MK Ultra was very much a Cold War tale. Project Stargate, or the Stargate Project, very Cold War-ish. And I guess this is the completion of the trilogy.
Is it? I don't know. I don't know what you got in store for me. I mean, yeah, and this really wasn't like a thought of like, oh, let's continue on Cold War stuff. But yeah, that's what happened. So
you are really going to hate what I'm going to suggest for our next episode. Then.
Oh, great.
Ooh, Jesus. It's going to be a quadrilogy.
Save it till the end.
It's going to be a quadrilogy. Let's just put it that way.
No. All right. That's fine. I like all this stuff. So, so anyway, this is, basically in 1961. So actually we can even roll back a little bit. So it is after the war. A lot's going on in the world.
Which one, Phil?
World War II. After World War II.
The big one. The bigger
one to end all wars. Wait, was that the first one?
Yeah, I'm pretty sure that was the first one. This was the big one, whereas the first one was the one to end all wars.
Oh, this is So everybody goes their separate ways, and then Russia is like, so they also steal a bunch of scientists from Germany, right? We covered this in Operation Paperclip.
Yeah. Oh God, we are talking. Oh God, we're the Cold War podcast.
We've become a Cold War conspiracy podcast. So they steal this dude. We've talked about him before. You know his name? Von Braun.
Von Braun.
Well, no,
Father Rockets. He liked his rockets.
Was a V2 rocket. Was a pocket rocket, as they call it in Germany. Anyway, yeah. So they steal this guy. Yeah, and so basically they steal him, and then he just starts to make ballistic missiles. He's in the program and all this other stuff. But at this time, Russia is basically ramping up, and so is the States. They're ramping up their their space programs. Like, they want to go into space. The Russians are kicking their asses, hands down.
Now, why were the Russians kicking their ass? I know we're not doing a history podcast because this didn't really happen.
Well,
but let's pretend. What is the reason why the Russians are kicking?
Well, the Russians also stole scientists from Germany. I can't remember the guy's name. We'll have to. But anyway, they
probably a German fellow.
Probably a Nazi. There's a strong possibility.
Strong possibility. He wasn't a Jew. He was a Nazi.
Definitely not a Jew. Poor bastards. No, he was a Nazi for sure. So everybody's stealing all these guys, and they're programmed for whatever reason, be it they just tried harder, put more money into it, infused more money. They end up with the first man in space, right? So
they had, I think, lost a few dogs and monkeys prior to that.
I try not to talk about it because it's so sad.
But I know, but this shows how ruthless they were actually in a lot of ways more ruthless about, okay, let's send up
cats, dogs, and then they primates. So I think the one primate was, what was his name? Bobo or some fucking name like that.
Bobo was Michael Jackson's pet, I think.
Oh, maybe. I don't know. Anyway, it was an ape name of that sort. And it was a primate name.
We'll just call him Phil.
Okay. Wait, what? All right, fine. Be that way. But he made it back. So they're like, oh, well, we'll stick Yuri, whatever his name was. And
something of itch. I'm pretty sure it was something of itch. And I thought that is very brave. That is true bravery.
Yuri Gagarin. I don't know.
Something very brave about that individual to do that, though, Phil. Like,
can you fucking imagine? I mean,
we're going to strap you to a bomb and launch you into the most hostile environment we can think of with stuff we're pretty sure will help you.
And he's like, so how do I get the bot? Listen, here's what's going to happen. We're going to use very tiny rockets to push you back into the atmosphere, and then you're going to fall.
And then gravity.
Get this, at maximum velocity. And we're going to hope this parachute opens somewhere over the Mediterranean Ocean. I'm not sure where. And he's like, all right, sign me up. Fuck. I mean, seriously, this dude is like, he's next level. Like the set
either completely crazy, or like you said, big cojones.
I mean, this guy, no, he's got a set on him, because, think about this for a minute. I mean, there's no technology. This is a first. This is like me strapping a jetpack on your back and saying, hey, I'm going to fly you across this lake. And you're like, I'm not sure this is a good idea. Like, I don't know. Anyway, a suicide mission, basically. And they do it. States looks bad. They don't like this. They don't like being shown up, right? Like, we know our American cousins to the south. They want to be first at everything.
And this would have been back in the era when Go Joe was essentially their, that was their logo. Their motto.
Yeah.
Let's do it.
Let's do it. Yeah. Well, and then, I mean, you got to remember too, like they're ramping up. So this is the two superpowers of the day. And that's where the whole Cold War comes into effect, right? Like, on the world stage, you have America and you have Russia.
And you had to pick a side. You're either Team America or Team Russia.
Yeah.
Or we're using the wrong term. It wasn't Russia.
USSR at this time. Yeah. You're either a comrade or you're a cowboy.
Capitalist. I like cowboy. Yeah. Cowboys and comrades. We should write a movie.
Great title, actually. Cowboys and Comrades. I'll write that down. Anyway, but yeah, so the world is watching. Everybody's like, okay, who the fuck is going to get there first? And well, it wasn't America. It was Russia. So the next step, and they're like, okay, well, they beat us to space. So what do we do now? And 1961, Kennedy goes on TV. JFK is like, it's not what you can do for your country, but what you can, or your country can do for you, whatever the fuck it was. Sorry, no disrespect. Do
you want the exact speech? Do you want the exact speech he did?
I have it somewhere.
I can't do the voice. I but I can. I can tell you the exact speech. Because my John F. Kennedy becomes like a Jimmy Stewart. I start off okay, but it becomes.
So listen there, Skip. It's Will Radley. Wasn't that Jimmy Stewart?
Oh.
Anyway,
I think you're thinking. It sounds like James Cagney. I don't know.
No, Kill a Mockingbird.
Oh yeah,
Jimmy Stewart. You remember?
That was apparently KKK. He was a KKK member in that. Not Jimmy Stewart, but the character Atticus. Well, is it Atticus Finch?
No, yeah, Atticus was a lawyer.
No, but it's a set of watchmen. So if you read the other books, apparently Atticus Finch was a member of the KKK.
Oh my.
Maybe I got my facts. I know there's something.
You're ruining this totally for me.
Something controversial about it.
All right. Well, as long as Scout.
Would you like the speech?
Yeah, let me hear the speech. Yeah.
Okay. First, I believe that this nation should commit itself to achieving the goal before this decade is out of landing a man on the moon and returning him safely to the Earth. See, Russia's wouldn't have that second part.
The safely.
No single space project in this period will be more impressive to mankind or more important for the long-range exploration of space, and one will be so difficult or expensive to accomplish. Now, that's a humble brag right there. They're basically saying, listen, yeah, we get it, Russia. You launched a guy into space. Big deal. Right. This is better, and it's more important and going to be really expensive.
And really far away. But yeah, no, you're right. And Russia's like, okay, well, let's fucking see who does this first. Now, to my knowledge, and to most people's knowledge, America was the only one who ever actually succeeded in manned land. Or did they? That is the question. But what I found interesting is The Russians were the first to land something on the moon. Do you remember how they did it? So they had a
rocket.
They basically did. It was called Luna 1. So they're like, well, how the fuck we're gonna send this thing hauling ass towards the moon? It's a rocket, basically. And they're like, okay, well, it's a lander, but we don't know how we're gonna land this thing properly. So they end up crashing it into the moon. Apparently, there's records of where it gravity is quite light. So, it's 1/9 the gravity of Earth. So if you can imagine, these landers are pretty big, but they weigh like under a ton when you're on the surface of the moon. And then they actually do another mission, and they're like, okay, let's not crash it this time. Let's try and do a soft landing. And who knows if that was the technology. So this was, what was this, in 1959 was the first Luna 1, and then 1962 Luna 2 was later that same year. Then in 1962, America lands Ranger 4 for a soft landing on the moon. So they both did unmanned trips to the moon. Or did they?
Well, and this is realistic. The idea that we're gonna use our rocket technology to fire, and this is why, by the way, space hates us. Aside from all the crap we put up there.
Oh my God!
This was the first start of us putting crap up there, where we just started launching stuff up.
Yeah.
So I think it's plausible that we have the technology to have stuff leave out of the orbit. Sorry, I just heard a distracting voice. Sounded like a rabbit was in my room.
Do rabbits have voices?
No, but the person chasing said rabbit, I think, does.
Okay. Yeah, so I thought that was interesting. I thought that, if you look at, okay, so it's a lot longer than like 69. This is a decade before the actual landing, right? One of the biggest things, is then they need to have somebody land on the fucking moon. And hence our story kind of begins. This is a decade-long process. So that from the time that, they were even doing this before that speech from JFK, right? Like,
yeah,
it was a long process. So it turns out it's a very expensive process too, right? So thousands, hundreds of thousands, and we'll get back to this in a bit, but hundreds of thousands of people were involved in this process. It was an enormous project. I can't even get into how fucking big this project. Like, they don't even have records of how many people actually worked on this fucking thing. That's how big it is.
That gives you an idea.
The scope of this.
So how you can summarize, by the way, the moon landing conspiracy and why it's
so sense. Big. It's so big
because it's so huge.
Yeah. So the moon landing was, it's such a big conspiracy because so many hands had to touch this, literally, for it to happen, right? And not only that, a lot of outside agencies. So that's something that nobody actually likes to talk about, is that there were other agencies other than NASA that were part of this, right?
And other organizations, right?
For sure.
Northrop Grumman, like they had, NASA may have made a bunch of stuff, but they had companies contracting stuff to make everything.
Yep, for sure. And the Department of Defense, you had also, there was monitoring from other countries, right? So Australia, based on, I don't know if you read about this, but like Australia was one of the ones that were in communication with the landers as well because of their geographic location. Yeah. So, and then they did lose touch with the land. There's all sorts of, stuff that, and what I find funny. So let's get into sort of the juiciness, like the whole premise of the moon landing being faked is that 6 men, or 6 missions, crewed landings, made it to the moon. 12 men walked on the moon, and they, the hoax is that nobody ever walked on the moon. That all of that is fabricated. And then we can kind of, I guess, go through. And so something I thought was crazy was like 20% of Americans think it's fake. That's a big fucking number.
It's a massive number. Now,
yeah.
So let's look at the reasons for, instead of saying why it's not fake, why would the US fake the moon landing? Why don't we do any good murder mystery here? What's the motive for faking the moon landing?
I mean, I have my ideas, but I mean, basically, I mean, it was a race. Nobody wants to lose a fucking race. They've already got beat once, and now they can't get beat again, or else.
Well, Kennedy did that. He threw down the gauntlet, right? Saying, man, the person who makes it to the moon and lands somebody there and gets them back safely, Russia, back safely,
not
would have the
there.
biggest balls of all and would be awesome.
Yeah, and that's they win all the chips.
All the chips. It's all theirs, right?
It's all theirs. It's a moon.
But that's not just it, by the way. So one of the other ones is not just the idea of the race. Part of it is, hey, they realize, and this again, this is not supported by any evidence. Okay, this is just one of the theories about the motivation for faking it is it can't be done. But let's not tell Russia that. Let's let Russia bankrupt themselves trying. Right. So we'll go off and use our Hollywood magic, to fake the moon landing. And Russia, not only will they be terrified, but they'll be saying like, "Now we've got to land somebody on Mars." So the next,
where does it go next?
Where does it go next? Right? It's that one-upmanship. So this is something that it's not just about, hey, we're in a race. It's also like, hey, let's see if we can convince this jackass on the other side, like similar to our Stargate project where we talked about. Yeah, they thought Russia was spending 60 million rubles.
Rubles,
rubies, pennies,
not rupees.
Rupees, right? Spending that kind of money, and you get your opponent to spend money on something that's really impossible.
And that makes a lot of sense. But I mean, we'll touch back on some of the buts later. But I mean, that's the premise of a lot of these. They also said it wasn't possible. A lot of people without any scientific degrees or engineering backgrounds
or
physics,
basic understanding
of any kind of mechanics, said, it's not possible. So of course it's not possible. But I find that, if you tell a lie, big enough, long enough, you'll get some believers. I don't know.
Yes. So, but here's the thing. Okay. We talk about the conspiracy angle for this. Ben Franklin once said, this is my favorite quote of all time: 3 can keep a secret if 2 are dead.
It's so true.
Right?
About it before.
I'm sorry. There are so many people involved in this, and
like thousands.
Yes.
Thousands of men and women. Probably some children in small countries building parks.
Yep. Like this is not one dude sitting in the White House going, don't tell anybody we didn't land on the moon. Like just to pull off the fakeness of it.
Just the amount of people that were in the room when it landed, the sheer volume, hundreds of people, and then across the ocean in Australia, there's hundreds more, doing the same shit. It's pretty
drunk. If it's in Australia, they're probably drunk. So it's
probably.
I mean, it was a penal. I have not met an Australian that's not fun to be around. They are awesome.
They are good. People. They are good people. They're like Canadians, but more drunk.
More drunk and rowdier.
I don't know. It's hard to say. Ooh. Okay, maybe not. I don't know.
These are the guys who play rugby. Kangaroos. Trust me. Rip your ears off.
Yeah. So the date, July 20th, 1969, our heroes. And I say that because you know what?
Intrepid heroes.
These are intrepid fucking heroes. Back to big balls. Once again, climbing this fucking piece of metal. We're going to strap a giant rocket to you. This is not a little rocket. This is an enormous rocket. And we're going to fucking send you sailing away 150,000 kilometers away. Like, you're going to what now? At a ludicrous speed. Then we're going to dump you off. And you're going to successfully plant this lander on the moon. Sure. Like, these are some fucking dudes. Like,
do we get to practice first? No. You get to practice in a swimming pool moving in your spacesuit. Yeah. Does that count?
Yeah. Are we going to die on the moon? Are we going to burn up? No, you have a little air conditioning unit in your suit.
Yeah, that's right. We'll have liquid cooling. You'll be fine.
Oh, you'll be fine. Don't worry when the sun burns you to a crisp.
Have you been to the Air and Space Museum at the Smithsonian in Washington?
No, I haven't.
If you ever get a chance to, I recommend you go there. You get to see the actual capsules and the actual spacesuits they used. And you're like, oh my God, this is something you could make in your garage.
Yeah, and they weren't real big guys either. Because I did see them.
They look pretty buff in their suits.
The suit, yeah, but I'm thinking, like, I would never get in one of those suits. There's no way. There's not enough Vaseline that would put me in that suit. Like,
Houston, we need more lube for Phil.
Houston, we ran out of all of the wax. More wax. Wax them into the. Yeah, no. I have been in a lander. I think it was a replica, and it's where the hell was that? It's in the Toronto Museum. Can't remember, but it was a replica of some sort.
Okay,
but they're tiny. It's tiny. It's 3 seats. Like, I don't even know where you piss. Seriously,
in your spacesuit. Pretty sure in your spacesuit, Phil. That's what those bags are for. Pretty sure you're not taking your pants off. I don't think any of these boys were taking their, like, once they got in their suit, they're in their suit
forever
until they come back and get out of their suit.
Yeah. Like, was there life support in the actual cabin of this?
I want to say yes. I want to say they could have, because I saw pictures of them with their helmets on, like it'd be pressurized inside.
Yeah.
But I don't remember there seeing an airlock mechanic when they got out. So I suspect they would have turned off all the oxygen, put on their helmets, and turned off all the oxygen, breached and then hopped into the atmosphere. There's the moon. Anyway.
Yeah. But you know what? So we have Neil Armstrong, Buzz Aldrin, and the other guy.
Remember Michael Collins? Poor Michael Collins.
Fucking other guy. This guy's got a big set of balls too, but nobody knows his name.
Everybody knows Buzz.
Buzz Aldrin. Well, the name like Buzz. How the fuck do you not know him? Neil Armstrong. I mean, these are the guys, right?
They named a drink, the Tom Collins, after Michael Collins, I think, didn't they?
Wouldn't they have named it Michael Collins?
I don't know. I'm trying to help Michael out here.
We're gonna name a drink after you, and we're gonna call it the Tom Collins.
Wait, what?
Nobody knows you.
Nobody knows you. Sorry, Mike. Sorry. How about you change your name to Tom?
Right. I don't know. Yeah, it's one of those things. And he never stepped on the moon. So he was the poor schluff that stayed in
he was
the orbital.
Back in the he was orbital command. So Armstrong got to be the commander.
Yeah.
And then poor Mike got to be the guy stuck back watching everybody get the glory.
You know, but at that moment in time, I bet you he's like, I can still make it back. If shit goes really sideways here, those 2 fuckers are dead. I'm turning this bitch around.
And my story will be heroic. I will destroy all the evidence.
Yeah.
Destroy evidence.
Wait a minute. That sounds like
that way I will look awesome.
That's right. Yeah. And here we are. But so they do their thing. History is history. They jump off. You know, it's one small step for man, one giant leap for mankind. Things.
Apparently, that quote is the quote was Armstrong was supposed to say something
better,
different. No, it's the man for a man.
I don't know.
One small step for man, not a step for. And he's supposed to say one step for a man, one giant leap for mankind. And he said man versus a man. I can't remember. Anyway,
well, was it something he did? That's another good question. That's why it was too good to not be staged. Maybe. Just saying, it was almost scripted. It's weird.
Scripted like a Hollywood blockbuster.
Yeah. So they go to the moon. What do? They fucking get samples. They jump around. That's pretty much it. It's a big fucking rock. They collect rocks. They play with rocks. Then they
take a lot of photos. A lot of videos.
A lot of videos that somehow went missing.
Probably Mike. It's probably Mike again.
Mike Collins. Tom Collins, that son of a bitch.
That's right.
And
Collins and his brother Mike.
So they spent, what is it here? They spent 6 hours and 39 minutes on the moon.
The whole trip from beginning to end was about 8 days, I think.
Yeah, well, most of that was obviously flying. It was 96 hours, I think, to get there. Now, I don't know about you, but like to sit in a fucking chair like that for that, like, I don't know, they didn't have a lot of room to fucking get up and move around in this thing.
I thought the ergonomics of those chairs were great. And let's not forget, they're wearing the Stay Puft Marshmallow Man suits.
Yeah. Like, what if you have to take a shit in these things?
That would be the suit. Again, we've talked about this, Phil. The suit handles everything.
It doesn't wipe your ass for you. I'm pretty certain there's no little
helps you move on the moon, Phil. That's going to help you move on the moon, Phil. Why do you think they were moving so funny on the moon?
Maybe they were hooked up to IVs and shit. You never know.
Maybe why not?
What's that? Or they never went. I mean, that lunar fucking module is going to stink like shit. I'll tell you. When these three guys. I mean, nobody talks about this, but like,
I think it was sealed at the neck. It was just their suits. They're like, why is my suits?
Like you blow open the hatch and everybody's like, oh.
That's the real reason why they had to quarantine, by the way, when they got back. It wasn't because they were worried about moons. Like, no, dude, weak. We got to hose you guys down.
Yeah, you've got the
especially
worst
you,
ass
Mike.
Rash. Like, there's not enough penitent cream in this planet to fucking get rid of this.
I think we're getting distracted. I think we're going off course now.
Yeah, Buzz Aldrin. He looks like he's riding a horse the whole time after he's out. Like, oh, now I know why. I never thought of it. Anyway, okay.
Right, you've ruined the moon landing for everybody now, Phil.
It's a legitimate fucking question. Like, and I think about it as an older
Google
man.
It, Phil. Just make sure you do it in incognito mode using a DuckDuckGo
so I don't
browser.
seem weird.
Yeah.
How does Buzz Lightyear or Buzz Lightyear?
How does Buzz Lightyear shit? I don't know.
Sorry, Buzz Aldrin.
Yeah, great. So apparently Mike Collins isn't the only problem.
Mike Collins is still sitting up there. These guys get to stretch their legs at least. You know, he gets to sit there. Poor bastard. Anyway. So then I guess we can go into, one of the bigger conspiracies of this whole thing. So like we had said, why would they want to do this? Well, they fucking kind of have to. Like, they're looking like, amateurs. So they either got to shut up or put up or shut up, whichever way you want to say that. And yeah. So what would you do if you didn't have the money to go to the moon, per se? And
I might consider going off and using I have money, of course, right? It's not that I don't have any money. It's just I realize going to the moon is incredibly expensive because of reasons, right? Yeah. However, I could probably make a pretty good movie with that money.
Right. And who would you get to do that movie?
Easy. That's so easy. I would go off and get I don't know,
the guy
John Carpenter.
Oh, there'd be some great fight scenes. And Buzz Aldrin grabs me.
That's right.
Holy fuck, it's like a SummerSlam out here.
Jesus.
We just, no kidding. And Tom Collins is he's drunk again.
He's drunk again. Uncle Tom.
So, or you would get, what's his face there?
The guy who did Space Odyssey, 2001.
Yeah. Now, I remember watching that movie as a kid, going, "What the fuck?" Like, it was mind-boggling.
Yeah. Okay. It was not super action-packed. It was super cool because of what they were doing. But you're watching, like, he's floating through, talking to the computer.
Hal.
Yeah. I can't let you do that, Dave.
Dave's not here, dude. What the fuck? The killer computer. Mm-hmm. So they think this is who dreamed this up was a guy named Bill Casing. Now, I read quite a bit about Bill Casing. So to give you some background on Bill Casing, he has 0 engineering experience. He has 0 degrees in anything related to science. He is a writer through and through. And he became a service writer or a technical writer or something for Rocketdyne, right? Is that the company? I believe it was Rocketdyne.
Yeah, I'm not sure exactly.
It was one of the subsidiary companies that was actually doing, shit for NASA, and they were in collaboration.
Okay.
And he's the guy that said, "Oh yeah, no, this was all done on a movie set." He is one of the biggest conspirators of this whole project, or of he is the top dog of conspirators. So for the moon landing. There's very few that are bigger than Bill Kaysing, and he's the one that said we never went to the moon. You know, it was a big swindle. So
apparently, he's not the only one who said we didn't go.
He's not. He's not the only one.
Did you read about the fake video with Stanley? The fake video about Stanley Kubrick saying that
it was we
didn't go to the moon,
but that turned out to be a hoax.
Yes.
So
did it?
You know, and Stanley Kubrick, apparently he was a real kind of very serious guy. Like, so they say that like he put little Easter eggs in The Shining. So he was the director of The Shining.
So do we want to talk about these Easter eggs that he apparently is? And they didn't say so much Easter eggs. What it was his apology letter. That's the term I've heard.
Because I didn't really understand it. I mean, there was like the Gemini, because the twins.
Yeah. So there's the fact that you've got Danny running around with the, Apollo 11 USA sweater on.
Yes.
It looks just ridiculous. And FYI, Stephen King said, the kid I had didn't have that.
Yeah.
Right. The Gemini, because there weren't supposed to be twins. It was supposed to be a dead kid. And Kubrick made it twins to talk about the Gemini, which was another
project.
Another project, right? The idea of the room number.
Oh,
did you hear that one?
No.
Okay. So in the book, the room was 217. In the movie, the haunted room is 237. Now, I've heard two different things. So the two different things I've heard, one is that 237 was Stanley Kubrick saying, this is my story about the moon landing, because the moon is like 237,000 miles, or it's actually more like 238,857 miles, but apparently, So, there we go. So that's that reference. The other one is that 237 is actually a reference to the sound stage where they filmed it.
No, I heard that. Yeah. That's but I mean, so, well, it based on, because 1968 is the 2001 A Space Odyssey. So this is a year before the moon landing.
Yep.
When compared, though, when you look at the space, everything, it's very different from what you see.
The moon is completely different in 2001. Everything. It's less cratered and pockmarked, I think. And in the actual Apollo videos, it's very much.
Well, and how the dust, I mean, so, how dust settles and stuff in a vacuum and what have you. I mean, it's very different than what you can recreate on a stage. That's, now, if this was said nowadays, that something was faked like this, it'd be very difficult to say, oh, well, yeah, absolutely. With the level of CGI technology that we have, I mean,
we have deep fakes now where we can get,
I know,
political figures saying or doing stuff they wouldn't. You can actually go with, there's a lovely video where it's got like Ronald Reagan and a bunch of other presidents singing "Fuck the Police."
Really? I put my face on Beyonce. That was a little weird.
Okay, well, this is more the audio faking, right? The idea that you have computers that can go off and
you can
this
generate
is their voice, and now I can generate speech.
For sure. We're in an era of like, would anybody be shocked if they fake the Mars light? Here's the problem. Are they going to go to Mars? Well, maybe, but who's going to believe it? Right? This is the problem with this shit. Nobody.
Well, the question is, do you believe it would be easier to get to the moon in 1969 or fake the moon landing in 1969?
I think it would be easier to get to the moon. With the level of shit that had to go down for them to fake it and for everybody to go, oh, yeah,
it would have been easier just to go off.
There's no fucking way. There's no amount of money that could pay off that many people. Not only that, I mean, and I hate to say it, but there was other people watching, like the fucking Russians. And even the Russians went, yeah, okay, good job. We'll get you
so
next
that's exactly
time,
it, right? They got the friggin' nukes. They got nuke codes, for God's sakes. They figured out a real nuclear bomb. You don't think they weren't aware? Yeah, the Americans are actually going to land on the moon.
With their level of intelligence and everything that was going on, you think for 1 second that you could fucking pay off enough janitors and enough fucking secretaries and enough fucking low-key people to go, Yeah, okay. No, that's not gonna fucking happen.
Just the guy who had to keep dumping Buzz Aldrin's waste sack from his suit. I mean, him alone.
Jesus Christ. I mean, I'm fucking hung up on this.
I'm sure if you Google it, how do spacesuits work? Waste removal. Like basically, I'm sure you Google it, there'll be like something.
There's gotta be. I mean, think about it though.
Maybe you just go. It's like the ocean. You just go. No, that's where you got the little neck piece. It keeps things down below. So you want.
So you're having like a 12-day bath in your own urine and feces. Oh, my skin has never been so smooth.
Oh God.
It's like exfoliate. Oh God.
The corn acts as an exfoliant.
Yeah. I mean, I smell like a water buffalo after a few days at camp, if I don't, it's like, and that's me airing out, That's not me in a spacesuit. It's not going to be pretty, but I digress. So they thought it was a sound stage that, now there was some promotional videos that were shot, right? Wasn't there some promotional?
I don't know. I don't know to what level those were shot or used.
I've never seen them. I don't, but I've read about them.
I heard about them, but it's like, okay, well,
what are they? Yeah, I don't know. But anyway,
like there are shots, there are videos of the three astronauts like doing some of their practices. Like there is some stuff out there.
Yeah.
Now I didn't see any promotional videos where they faked the moon landing, I guess.
So, no, not faking the moon landing.
A meeting where they didn't do a promotional video showing them pretending to walk on the moon. Like I didn't see any of that.
No.
What I've seen is some video footage of them getting ready, like showing their gear off, that kind of stuff. But
yeah, the pool stuff, the pool exercises, which
the waste sack removal.
So gross. All right.
Stop it, Buzz.
Can you imagine? I can't even imagine. All right, I got to get my head out of there. So anyway, back to this Bill guy, this Bill Casing. I mean, he published a book, and back to a book is published, which the idea was America lacked the technical expertise coming from a guy with zero technical expertise in fucking anything.
Yes.
To get to the moon, land there, and then return. That was the whole premise of his book. So, but he had no experience. I mean, he's just another fucking armchair fucking, what do you call those? Armchair
generals, quarterbacks, depends on
armchair. Yeah. Anyway, armchair genius.
And there was another one, right? The mockumentary, Dark Side of the Moon.
Yeah. Yeah.
Like another one. And now, mind you, that was clearly a mockumentary. I haven't watched it, but apparently it was clearly a mockumentary about faking the moon landing. It was basically Spinal Tap.
Well, Fox News did one too, right? So was that through Fox? It was Fox, or not? Maybe not Fox News, but it was Fox as a
Fox document conspiracy theory. Did we land on the moon?
Yeah, which was a huge one, which put a lot of doubt in people's minds, right? And of course, it comes from Fox. I mean, Donald Trump's already said it's fake news. I think it's Jeb Bush that owns Fox, one of the Bush brothers. Anyway, so the other thing that was happening, one of the conspiracies that I if there was going to be a conspiracy that you could sink your teeth into, for me anyway, is what was going on at the time that all of this happened in 1969. Do you remember?
Was that the Cuban Missile Crisis? Was that?
It was also called Watergate.
Oh, that's right. Yeah, no, you're right, because that's right, because of Nixon.
Yeah.
Yes,
so Nixon.
Yes, that's right, because Kennedy actually didn't live to see. That's right, he didn't live to see.
He never lived to see the any of the landings. But what was going on in 69? Oh yeah, Watergate, Vietnam, shit's hitting the fan. Running guns and drugs into Laos, all sorts of crazy fucking opium trades going on.
America needed a win.
We needed a win. We didn't get it, or they didn't get it. But yeah, so one of the theories is that they needed something to take the heat off of them and off of Watergate. So what better way than to entice an entire nation of, hey, we landed on the moon and we returned in our PP suits.
Right. One of the crazy parts about did ABC, CBS, and NBC spent collectively between 11 and 12 million on Apollo 11 coverage.
That's what they spent. So
that's what they spent. That's what apparently they spent just on coverage. Just on coverage.
Yeah. Just on paying people to be there and watching this thing. So there is no doubt. I don't care who the fuck you are. There was like thousands of people watching this thing. Those men walked into a rocket and that son of a bitch took off. And it was tracked by every fucking radar system in the world at that time. And that bitch left the fucking atmosphere. Now, where it went is, anyone's guess.
Now, do you want to start diving into some of the evidence for the faking? Okay, so we've set the stage. Oh, by the way, we talk about quotes. Here's another good quote. So Bill Clinton, in his autobiography, My Life in Monica Lewinsky, said just a month before Apollo 11 astronauts Buzz Aldrin and Neil Armstrong had left their colleague Michael Collins aboard Spaceship Columbia and walked on the moon, the old carpenter asked me if I believed it happened. I said, sure. I saw it on television. He disagreed. He said he didn't believe it for a minute. It's part of that 20% you were talking about. That them television fellers could make things look real that weren't. Back then, I thought he was a crank. During my 8 years in Washington, I saw some things on TV that made me wonder if he wasn't ahead of his time.
Yeah, but
this was Bill Clinton?
Yeah.
Now, this was the same guy who said, I did not engage in sexual relations with that woman.
Oh, that's very good.
Yeah, that also becomes a Jimmy Stewart if I
if stay with it long
enough.
If you go everything
goes longer.
Jimmy Stewart. Yeah, I mean, let's talk about some of the things. So
okay. Pick a piece of evidence.
Well, one of the ones that is the lighting. So the lighting is off. And the lighting
shadows, right?
These shadows. So, which has been disproved by modern cinematography, because you can recreate all of these things. So in 2014, I believe, there's these powerful programs that can simulate all sorts of light effects and what have you, right? They're very powerful programs, and they basically just recreated the entire stage from scratch. I don't know if you know what I'm kind of referring to. And they basically said, okay, well, let's just we'll take the power of the sun, we'll recreate all of the lunar modules, everything in 3 dimensions. We'll throw in the fucking everything, including the orbiting fucking, and you know what? Everything looked the same. Like it was legit because of the lunar dust.
Because it was all faked, Phil. That's why it looked legit. Because it was all faked. You just demonstrated they clearly, this is what?
Clearly in 2014.
2014, where computers had gone from the size of small houses to, stuff we can carry around in our hands. Yeah, clearly they had the computing power back then to fake this.
Yeah, they tried in 2009 and they couldn't do it. They couldn't even come close. But they could generate how, even with the motion of the sun, what the shadows would appear to be. Now, there was also another lander that was positioned. So one of the big things is when Buzz is coming down off the ladder, and I'll show a picture of it, is that his suit is kind of illuminated. But then it's almost like he's climbing down into the shadow. And that's one of the big ones, the juicy one, all the conspiracy. They're like, well, why is Buzz lit up and the ground is, it's like, well, he's also wearing a very reflective white fucking costume. And
that reeked with the waste bag.
Like he was stinking some fierce, I'm sure. And then
why he was moving so awkwardly down the ladder.
Yeah, like they're walking funny. Why are they walking so funny? You have a load of shit in your pants for 9 days. Right. You're gonna walk funny too. Like Jesus. I don't know. I'm really hung up on this. We're gonna have to figure it out.
That sounds like a follow-on episode. How astronauts went back
on our next episode. I'm going to tell how this happens. I'm doing some research.
I'll let that non sequitur go through. Don't worry. There we go. Or non sequitur. Sorry, not non sequitur. Non sequitur. Yeah, the light one is interesting because they talk about, and this has actually been disproved. Mythbusters did their moon landing thing, right? They went off and demonstrated.
They did as well. Yeah, actually, Mythbusters did a ton of them and could do them all. Like it was pretty amazing.
That's because they're working for the ghost of Stanley Kubrick.
Well, yeah, they're in the same soundstage, I believe. 237.
All right. Can I pick one now?
Yeah.
Okay. I like the flag. I'm going with the flag one. This is one of the most The flapping flag. This is one of the ones that is the most, oh my God, look, it's waving in the wind and there's no wind on the moon, dummies.
Yeah.
So why is it flapping unless it's in a sound stage where they, turned on the AC because Buzz was staking the place up, or they were sweating in their suits.
They were releasing the methane gas from Buzz's suit. I'll let you explain the why, but I want to touch on it though, because
this is there's two parts. This one is you had the holder itself, which by its nature had the flag hang a certain way.
Yeah.
And second, you also had next to no gravity. And when you unpack the flag and set it up, it's all bent crinkled. Too. It's all bent and crinkled. So you got it like that. And it's not necessarily stopping. It does apparently does eventually halt. Like you'll see when they were moving it, it got
in a vacuum. They call it the pendulum effect. It's like anything else, right? There is no friction. Like even in our atmosphere and air, there's friction. Well, there's nothing there. It's a void.
Otherwise, your parachutes wouldn't work.
Well, parachutes aren't going to work on the moon.
Ain't no atmosphere to catch your parachute. Now, mind you, you also have a much less gravity. So I'm curious, like you might be, I don't know, like John Carpenter of Mars.
Could be just jumping around, like all maybe. Matrix and shit, probably, or floating off into like the void of space. Yeah. Mm-hmm. But what I was going to say about the flag is when I was a kid, I remember seeing that flag and going, "That's weird," because it just looked like it was just, like it didn't, and not that it looked fake, but it just looked so weird. Which I've never seen a flag in a fucking vacuum before. Have you? I mean, how do I know it's fucking weird? Or how do I know that that's not how it happens, right? And
exactly, because you've got a flag that's all folded up. So you unfold it, like uncrinkle it, but there's not really much gravity to...
No, it's staying.
So it's going to kind of... Yeah, so it's going to be kind of crinkled up because it's not...
Yeah, I mean, which makes total sense to the average mind of someone who goes, okay, well,
No atmosphere, poor gravity, no atmosphere and really, really low gravity.
Yeah, and let's say they're not faking it. Well, they wouldn't think fucking twice about it. It's a fucking flag. Stick it in the dirt. I'm just amazed I'm alive. And I've got the itchiest ass I've ever had in my life.
Damn you, Buzz. You were supposed to go before we left Earth.
Oh, my God. Can you just do like the bears do and wad it up with a ball of grass or something? Jesus. Anyway.
Mike's glad we're not talking about him now. Nobody's talking about him.
Old Tom Collins. Yeah, no kidding.
Tom Collins. Uncle Tom Collins.
Yeah. So, well, I'll do the next one if you want. Are you done with the flag?
Yeah, that's it. It's the smoking gun they use that really is not. Once you look into it, and again, they've debunked this.
Well, not only that, there's technology that can actually see the 5 flags that are still standing on the moon as we speak.
But they came back later, Phil. We're not saying we never went. We just didn't go anytime
Is that what they're saying? I didn't read that.
That's one of the other 6. It's like, hey, we went. We did. Yeah, sure. There's stuff up there because they've now had to set the stage, right?
And how much would that cost? Right. Oh, that's cheap to do. Sure. Okay. No stars in the photos, which is a fucking awesome thing. And anyone out there listening. So here's what I'd like you to do. Go take a picture tonight of the fucking moon. If there's a moon in the sky, go take a picture and see how many stars show up on your phone. I think there's only a handful of cell phones out there that'll even remotely pick up anything. And this is in this day and age, anything remotely close to a star in the sky. It's just not enough light.
Yeah, well, you have to have a really long exposure too, right? So
that's
most
right.
of the exposure on cameras was very short. So if you have a really long, it's less of a photo, and now it's almost a video.
Right. So that is one of the reasons that they say, okay, well, fuck, it's a soundstage. It's just black. There's no stars, and you should see a ton of stars. Well, I got news for you. In that day and age, even in this day and age, that's what I'm saying. Take your cell phone. It's probably better than the cameras they were using by like, who knows how many times better. And you're not going to see any stars in your fucking phone. It's just the way it is. Yeah. Anything to add?
No, No, it's again, this is where you've got all these gotchas that people point at saying, oh, look at that, therefore it's clearly fake. So first off, folks, if they're going to go to all this effort of faking the moon landing, they would have fixed a bunch of the stuff we've seen so far. So one thing I'd like to touch on is the Fantastic Four.
Like,
so one of the theories is that they couldn't have gone to the moon. They couldn't have gone to the moon because they would have had to pass through the Van Allen radiation belt.
The Van Allen belt, yeah. And he
and for that reveal, for those who don't get the reference, Fantastic Four, that's how Fantastic Four got their power. They were flying into space, bombarded by cosmic rays, became the plucky foursome we know and love. The theory is that they could not have gone to the moon at the time with the technology they had because they would have been all died of radiation poisoning.
Right. Yes, and I read about that too. But that's not true.
No, it's not true.
And even James Van Allen said, okay, it's a pretty
Eddie Van Halen also said the same thing.
Eddie Van Halen, who played guitar on Apollo 11. Right? Like, what the fuck? So solar flares, all these other things.
Now they talk about there would have been the so the capsule itself would have had aluminum. They said like aluminum shielding, I guess, right? Something. And to travel through it, they would have only been traveling through it for the briefest of moments. And I heard somebody say it's basically getting an X-ray at worst.
Sure. At worst, and if I'm in that thing, my last thought is going to be the radiation.
Exactly.
As I'm hauling my ass through at 35,000 miles an hour, going, that moon's getting pretty fucking close. Yeah. Anyway, but yeah, you're right. The radioactive tube. Yeah. But he himself, who discovered the Van Allen belt, said no. So you would have like a few minutes in the belt, and then upwards of an hour at the end of the belt. So at the beginning, and then you would be in this belt area for about an hour, traveling at the speeds they were at, and that it wasn't enough to solar flares.
Based on all the shielding, they did have some shielding,
sure.
They were not going up there in nothing. No.
They knew that there's radiation in space. They know like there's technology at this point. They just didn't have like the other thing is one of the theories is that, and because I'm glad you brought this up, because they said that the film wouldn't have been able to survive the radiation.
Yes.
Which is not true. That film, they
said it would be fogged or obscured.
It would cause a fogging or something, but that's not. There's no proof. I don't even know where they get that idea. It doesn't make any sense.
One of the things I read about that was that the film itself, basically, okay, so if anybody thinks these bozos went off and in the shuttle with no room, decided to unpack all their gear and start going off and videotaping, no. It was all like it got unpacked when they got like they talk about. Where is it? 1 second. Let me just go and say. The film was kept in metal containers that stopped radiation from fogging the film's emulation. Furthermore, the film carried by uncrewed lander probes such as LoRa used on-board film development processes were not fogged.
Right. So, I think that you've got this project that spans 10 years or more.
A lot of really smart people
smart people that are like, they have thought of everything except for how to vacate feces and urine from a very important part of
how to properly dispose of bodily waste, but
how to void urine in the suit.
I remember something about hoses being hooked up, but I think I'm thinking more like the shuttle or the space station, which is a little bit more advanced.
Yeah, I think so. Well, I know when on the space station, it's like a you for the males, it's like a urinal with a kind of a suction type thing.
Great to seal and we got one way to go, baby.
Let her go. And those of us with a weak prostate or swollen prostate helps to pressurize a little bit, get a good stream going. Yeah. Anyway, but yeah, so that was one of the big ones too, right? Is that now I did mention the Vietnam War. That was on my list. But the missing tapes.
Yeah, so this is a fascinating one when you think. Now, this one, I'm not saying it doesn't have any legs, but it is the more interesting of all of this.
I think so.
The stuff that's gone missing. And we're not talking somebody grabbed some moon rocks.
No, so it was estimated there was 40 tapes. So in 6 hours, they basically recorded nonstop.
Yep.
Right. And all that was left was 17 tapes that they could find. It's like, wouldn't you want to, like, whoever filed these fucking things, wouldn't you expect that it would be something a little bit more like, put those somewhere safe for prosperity? This is a pretty monumental fucking thing. But
it's not just the tapes. We're talking data as a whole, right? There's other data that telemetry has gone missing. You've got blueprints have disappeared. Now, some of the stuff would totally be collector's items, right?
For sure. Oh, you know what? I never even thought of that. Can you imagine working on this thing and being like, nobody needs these.
Well, in 2009, apparently NASA said, 2009, NASA indicated they must have erased the original Apollo 11 moon footage years ago so they could reuse the tape.
Oh, the VHS.
I'm sorry. When I hear that, I'm like, didn't you guys just spend? I get you need to cut corners somewhere, but you're like, okay.
Can't you go to Blockbuster like the rest of us?
That's right, exactly.
Or buy the fucking, reusable tape. I mean, I don't know. I have that. There's something. This isn't about it being a hoax, but there is a lot of talk about maybe they saw something up there. Those tapes that we're not supposed to see, right? That's a whole other fucking.
Well, that's the opposite of a, hey, we landed on the moon. That's a, hey, crap. And I also did break through that when I was Googling stuff. I was like, okay, wait a second here.
Yeah.
And I want to say there's something about lizard people. Again, can't talk about the lizard people.
There's a lot of talk that the moon was a base and it was all sorts of things. But I mean, how they use this and how they twist it is that we've never been back. There were 6 missions, no one ever went back. It's like, well, the big fucking rock. Why?
Isn't China doing their space race thing?
China will be landing on the moon,
and they're looking to set up a base there. Actually,
they are looking to fucking move in. So, if anybody's there or anything, I would suspect that they're going to have neighbors. And communist China is moving to the moon. They're running out of land, man. They got to build somewhere.
Well, and it's a sign of, did you ever play Civilizations, the video game Civilizations?
No.
So one of the, I guess, milestones of your civilization is the space race, where you get to the point where you want to be the one to basically start launching rockets into space, right? And once you start doing that, it starts, depending on the version you played, I think there was like a timer that almost started where every other civilization, they're either going to come and wipe you out, or you're going to, basically win with the most advanced civilization.
Right. Yeah.
So it's a sign for a country, for civilization, that, hey, look, we can do it too.
We can do it. Yeah, for sure. And well, there's been a lot of, like, Japan had a orbiter. Mm-hmm. So that's the other thing, is that Japan is like taking images of the moon and you can see all the junk, the lunar modules that were left. And, like it's not a secret anymore. I mean, I guess you can still say that, okay, well, Japan's on board with the conspiracy, or oh yeah, we got all that stuff landed there nice and neatly, because it's all landed.
Previous statement about Ben's previous statement about 3 can keep a secret if 2 are dead.
Right. I mean, it's too big and scattered at, like they landed in different areas altogether. Right. So, yeah. What else was there? I don't know. What?
Is there much more to say about this? Again, we've got, I mean,
so the footprints is another one.
Is it the footprints versus the lander?
Well, the lander made no craters. So that was a big one too. So the lander made no crater, which they found out later was, they disproved it because of the weight. So the lander itself was like,
17 tons, and then you've got the reduced weight.
So it was like 4,500 pounds or kilos by the time everything was said and done. The way the thrusters work too, it dissipates. There's no like air, so things aren't like moving the way we would expect them to. Mm-hmm. The other thing was there's no flame in the basically in the in where the thrusting system is, and that's common because it's in a vacuum. So they use things like kerosene fuel. I don't know if you ever heard of this. It doesn't need a spark. You know, it can ignite with I think it's called dinitrogen tetraoxide. So
Aren't you a little chemist?
Right. I know. It's crazy. We can figure all this shit out, but we can't make a piss pot for Buzz Aldrin. Anyway, they're in an atmosphere. That's why we get color, right? When we are burning things, we get color. We get blue, right? Blue flame, red, all these different things because it's burning up, things in our atmosphere. Well, in a vacuum, there is nothing to burn up. So they usually are. It's just clear, right? You're burning the propellant, which is not a color.
I also had read they had talked about the fact that the footprints were left, but no lander prints. Well, when you think about the size of the pads, this is where
they're big pads of 3 meters.
They're massive pads spread over.
Yeah.
And based on the force per square inch, it was actually less than they were putting in with their footprints.
That's right. Yeah. But also when they were taking off, it did displace, the sand. I mean, the other thing about the sand and why the footprints have stayed so long, one, there's no wind, there's no atmosphere. But the sand, like the moon dust, is not the same as Earth sand. So we think of Earth sand would be like spherical granules, right? Where on the moon, they've never had any friction of moving around or anything. So they're very spiked. They're very sharp, tiny pieces of, like if you were to roll around in this thing like naked, you'd fucking cut yourself a billion times, right? It's very sharp. They brought this shit back home, and it's like under a microscope, it looks like little shards of glass almost, so they do hold their shape and their form much better than say sand would or something to that effect.
Like you said, it's the nature of the environment they're in, right?
Yeah, that's right. What else was there? I think other than that, let me check my notes.
Now, so one thing we haven't covered is who benefits from this being a conspiracy, meaning who benefits from the person making. So traditional rule is the person making the claim needs to prove it, but that person making a claim usually has a motive. So what would somebody's motive be for
but that's the problem. Do they have to fucking have do they have to prove it? Like, do you know what I mean? Like to say that have to, but I see what you're saying. Well, obviously, a guy like this Bill, we're talking about him. So, he made money. He got famous for, talking all this shit. But really, at the end of the day, you kind of go, okay, well, what do you know? Like, why are people taking him seriously? Is the maybe the better question, right?
Yeah.
Oh, Gesundheit.
Jeebus. Yeah, exactly. So you look at these claims that are being made about the fake moon landing, right?
Mm-hmm.
Part of them is it's a political ideological statement against American exceptionalism, right? Saying you guys didn't do anything important. Stop talking like you're king of the castle because you're king of nothing. You're jack shit in Jackliff Town.
Yeah,
with Buzz Aldrin.
Just have a lot of restaurants and stuff. Yeah. Nice beaches, whatever.
Nice beaches. Yeah.
No, I get that. But I think you will always have those people that just go against the grain, right?
Sure.
And what is disheartening to me is the fact that I believe during the time of this project, there was like more than a dozen people that died in test flights.
Okay.
Yeah, there were like people died doing this, and then you take the 12 men that fucking risked their lives for their country be it America, be it whatever country. I have to respect the fact that these guys jumped in this fucking monstrosity and fucking did what they did, And
I
can
name anybody after Buzz, Neil, and Mike?
Did I name what?
Can you name anybody after Buzz, Neil, and Mike?
No, not at all.
That was the bastards. They are the Mike Collins of the moon landing.
Yeah. Well, even Mike Collins, the poor prick.
Even Mike Collins, nobody knows about Mike Collins,
right? And he was there. He's like the odd man out. Just goes to show. But
let's link it back to our previous episodes. The whole idea of the government lying to their people and doing shady stuff, I think we've demonstrated between maybe not with the Stargate project, but certainly with MK Ultra and Operation Paperclip, government just do this. So it's not inconceivable that they would do this. So some people come at it from that angle, right? Like, I don't trust government. If the government tells me it's black, it's white, I'm going to see it as white, et cetera, et cetera. Yeah. There are always people who will immediately assume that whatever the government's telling them is a lie.
And maybe it's their own fucking fault. Like the government, there is a lot of lies. So you have people trying to sift through the shit.
Not a crook.
Private wars and small poor countries. Innocent people that are. So I have a hard time being upset with people who want to question things. My thing is, when I look at information, when you look at the sources of this, who better to look at than Russia for to be the judge of the United States? Do you think they're going to?
If anybody was going to say, you guys lied, liar, pants, it would be Russia. They'd be like, here's
Russia, China,
evidence.
Any of these fucking
more
places.
And more Russia than China, because China at the time was
at the time, but right now.
But you're right. No, China would go off and say, here's the information we have, but Russia has no problem saying you guys are being jerks.
Yeah,
and I'll release on WikiLeaks
for sure. And they're not afraid, right? Maybe they don't act afraid. I don't know. But I think that there would be enough countries that would go, you're crazy, but they didn't. And they went, congratulations, you fucking won. Good for you. And where do you go from here? Like Buzz Aldrin at 90. Did you read about this where he punched this dude in the fucking yap? And I don't blame him. I mean, seriously, like, come on.
They had to shut him up somehow. He's like, he's going to give the game away.
Hey, this is the fucking dude that strapped himself to a rocket and sat in his own shit for 9 days.
That's right. Yeah, show him some respect.
I carried this watch in my ass, this uncomfortable piece of metal, for 2 years.
But pulp fiction.
Yeah. But yeah, so you're going to tell him he didn't go to the fucking moon? Okay.
You're going to call him a liar to his face.
Yeah. And he punched you in your fucking mouth, as you rightly deserve. And as the judge said, guess you won't talk next time. I guess you'll shut up around our hero, Buzz Aldrin.
That's right. Why don't you be quiet while adults are talking?
Yeah, boy, listen. And it's true. Like, I could see the sacrifices that these men made. Like, they all had families, I'm pretty sure. I don't know about Tom Collins, but
he was a drunk. I heard he was a drunk.
He was a fucking lush. Yeah, he was too drunk to go on the moon. We had to leave him in the fucking orbiter.
Right. To dry out.
Yeah, he got piss everywhere. Opened up his collar thing. Disgusting. I got to find out what they do. Oh,
I know. I can see
I'm going to lose sleep. I'm going to lose sleep.
Bothering you.
But yeah, it's one of those conspiracies where I don't really think it's much of a conspiracy, to be honest with you.
I think nowadays, like you said, with the Mars, they would have minimal problem faking a Mars.
Oh yeah.
Like once you get out of range, you could just nuke the frig. You could just launch the craft out, let it get out of range, and then now they can track stuff. Kinda. I believe there's a delay in that. Like they've done that. We've landed landers, apparently, probes on Mars.
Well, yeah, you can get pictures and see what's going on.
Right.
I actually checked
and we know that's real because Oh wait, do we? Maybe that's the big conspiracy.
We don't know that's real. Until you see something like you go, oh yeah, they don't show that stuff.
They don't show that stuff. The alien.
And maybe that's That's the other part of, do we need to know? Maybe we don't need to know. Maybe we don't
Much
need
like
to know
Cthulhu,
everything.
there's stuff we're not meant to know.
Yeah, sometimes ignorance is bliss. We don't need to always know that, hey, there might be some sort of alien, colony on the dark side of the moon.
Particularly if we can't do anything to prepare or deal with it, right?
For sure. Yeah. Leave them alone. That's probably the best thing to do. And don't go back. So then China's like, yeah, we're going to go back.
We're going back and set up shop.
Okay, we're going to give you video number 33.
Here you go.
You have 5 minutes to watch it, and then you make your decision.
But then you can decide. Yeah. Is that what you want? Yeah. FYI, there were originally 6 astronauts. 3 made it back.
Yeah.
2 went to the planet. 5 went to the planet, and only 3 came back.
Yeah. There was a Tom Collins.
There was a Tom, his brother. That's why he's a drunk.
He's dead. Who fucking knows? Anyway, I digress.
Do we want to summarize?
Yeah. Sure.
Yours. You summarize, buddy.
I might as well. Okay. So men go to the moon. One guy in particular says, nope, they didn't. It was done on a movie set. Everybody is now poking fun and saying this is not real, based on no science, all conjecture. Yeah, I don't know. There's nothing else really to say.
And Stanley Kubrick filmed it. I think that's the other summary. It was.
Stanley.
I've never heard anybody else associated with the fake moon landings filming them.
Because nobody could do it. Nobody could do it but Stanley. And Stanley is like, sure. He would laugh. He thought it was hilarious. And why wouldn't you? People are like, you filmed it, right? Probably at Area 51. Makes sense.
Yeah, of course, right? Let's mix it. Area 51 with
that was one of the things
under the Manhattan Project. Yes, I saw that the soundstage was at Area 51.
Yep. When we did Area 51, we mentioned that actually.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, so I think why did they not go back? Why? What else? What can you learn? You were there 6 times. It's a big fucking chunk of rock.
How many people climb Mount Everest more than once?
Well, there's a few.
No, I think most do. I think unless you're a Sherpa, I think you generally climb at one and you're done.
You roll the dice.
I made it there.
Yeah, the Sherpas do it like every week.
That's right. Every other.
They're
day.
Like, yeah, Well, they were born there. It's not the same. They don't even get the sickness, the altitude sickness.
Yep, bodies have adapted.
Yeah. So what are we doing next week?
All right. So to continue the Cold War quadrilogy, I want to do secret armies.
Sounds. I don't know if I want to do this one.
So this is something you'll have to tune in for next time.
Okay.
But specifically, we're going to talk about Gladio.
Gladio.
But there's a couple others too, real good ones. And this is more of a European phenomenon. Although, given the situation in the States, I have no doubt there is more than one secret army stored there. Yeah.
So down in the States, there are tons of these little militant sort of get-together groups, militias that are, 20, 30, 40, 50 strong, communities that go, hey, well, we got to prepare for the end, or whatever the case may be. But yeah, so it's not unlikely that you get a group together that want to overtake things. Yeah. All right. Well, then. Thank you very much for watching the OC. I'm Phil, my co-host Corey, and next week we're going to talk about secret armies, Gladio, and all that other crazy stuff. So thanks for listening to the moon hoax landing, Stanley Kubrick, and I hope Buzz changes his shorts. Poor bastard.
We love you, Mike.
We love you, Tom Collins. Goodbye now. Stay good. Stay strong.
See you, folks.